My life seemed normal, maybe even too routine. Then came that big work opportunity for my wife. It was a major project in another city, and of course, I told her to go for it. She was so excited, packing her bags, talking nonstop about how important this was for her career. I clearly remember the last kiss before she walked out the door. Nothing seemed off. Nothing to suggest it would be the start of chaos. For the first few days, everything was fine. Messages here and there, quick calls at night. But then, the messages started to dwindle. The calls became shorter, more rushed. And then, silence. A silence that consumed me, you know? Something was wrong. I could feel it. I kept staring at my phone, waiting for any sign from her, but nothing came. After a week of no word from her, I started losing my mind. I called the hotel she was supposed to be staying at, and their answer hit me like a punch. She never checked in. I reached out to her colleagues, and no one knew anything. The police? They told me she was an adult and could disappear if she wanted to. Well, as if my wife vanishing was just some trivial matter. I couldn't accept it. I hired a private investigator. I combed through everything I could, social media, bank statements, phone records. Nothing. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. And every day without answers was torture. Had she been kidnapped? Was she in danger? Or had she left me? The nights were the worst. I'd replay every conversation we had before she left, searching for a clue, a hint. Anything that could explain what was happening. I'd fall into bed exhausted, but real sleep never came. 2 years passed. 2 years of emptiness, trying to move forward without knowing what had happened. I sold our house because I couldn't stand looking at the walls and remembering her. I moved to another city, tried to start fresh. But forgetting? Not even close. I had nightmares. I tried dating other people, but it always felt like I was betraying her. Even though maybe she'd betrayed me first. The lack of answers was what killed me. Everything kept spinning in my head. Did she really love me? Was I blind to something that had been obvious all along? My family and friends told me to move on, that life had to go on. But for me, life had stopped the day she walked out that door. 4 years later, just as I was starting to breathe a little easier, my doorbell rang. I opened it and there she was. Holding a baby. I froze. She looked different, a little worn, but it was her. And then she said the words that knocked the wind out of me. "Can we talk?" She stepped inside, and I was in complete shock, barely able to form words. She sat on the couch, clutching that baby like it was her shield. Then she started explaining what had happened, or at least what she wanted me to believe. She said she had to run, that she'd been in danger. And the baby? The result of a relationship she'd had while protecting herself. Man, I didn't even know what to feel. Anger? Sadness? Everything all at once. I tried to focus on her words, but my mind kept screaming, why now? Why like this? The house, which had been so quiet for years, suddenly felt too full, suffocating. I looked at her, then at the baby, and it was like I was in a scene from a movie that didn't make any sense. While she talked, all I could think was, this doesn't add up. I asked her why she hadn't reached out for help. Why she left me in the dark for years. She couldn't look me in the eye. She kept repeating that she had no choice, that it was the only way. And when she admitted the baby wasn't mine, it felt like a knife to the chest. She wanted me to accept it, to just move on and build something new with her. As if everything could just go back to normal? I was shattered. I kept wondering what she really expected from me. Was I supposed to save her now? After everything? She seemed sincere in some things, but in others, there was something off. Her story was full of holes, and I knew I had to find the truth. I needed answers, but I knew she wasn't going to give me the truth. So, I decided to investigate on my own. I hired another private investigator while pretending to consider what she wanted. I watched every detail, every inconsistency in her story. Something didn't add up, and I had to know what it was. Meanwhile, I offered to help her find a place to stay but kept my distance. I couldn't trust her, not after everything. She tried to get close, saying she wanted to rebuild what we had. But how do you rebuild something she had destroyed? Every day with her back in my life was like walking on broken glass. I wanted to believe her, wanted to feel like there was still something between us. But the mistrust was stronger. And I couldn't ignore it. 2 weeks later, the investigator came back with the answers I feared. She hadn't run away because she was in danger. She had left me to be with another man. That work project in another city? Just a cover. She had been with him even before she disappeared. But he left her when he found out about the baby. And that's why she came back to me. I was her backup plan. I confronted her with everything. At first, she tried to deny it, but the evidence was clear. She finally admitted it. Said she was sorry, that she wanted to fix things. But, at that moment, I felt a strange relief. Not happiness, but it was like I was finally free. I told her there was no way I could forgive her, that she needed to deal with the choices she'd made. She left again, this time for good. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. It was painful, but at least it was the truth. And the truth, no matter how hard, is always better than living in doubt.